I'm here to talk about privacy and why this has become such an important aspect of an organization's compliance. If I would attribute them to 5 key reasons, I would say internet, which eventually led to social media and on to personalization through targeted advertising, the increase of cyber threats, and finally, of late, the onset of artificial intelligence, where models are being trained with personal information as part of the training data. These reasons have led to privacy regulations that have become critical for organizations to comply with. Compliance to these regulations has now become a significant aspect of running a business. This is now becoming table stakes for any privacy or security organization, given the importance of their customer data, their employee data, as well as their vendor data. What have these privacy regulations led to? Most regulations are coming up with certain key aspects of compliance. The first being data subject rights. This is where organizations have to comply with data subjects. Data subjects could be defined as customers, employees, and even vendors. When it comes to employees, the scope of employees includes applicants, contractors, even ex-employees. What does compliance to data subject rights mean? These privacy laws have now provided rights to residents of specific geographies or states or countries where they have the right to access their information in the form of a portable file that they can have access to. Then they also have the right to delete their information that an organization has on them. They also have the ability to be able to opt out of sensitive data processing, opt out of automated decision making, even opt out of targeted advertising and tracking technologies. In addition, we are seeing provisions in privacy laws to opt out of artificial intelligence processing as well. What are some challenges facing an organization in building a robust and scalable privacy program? First things first, you have to decide which privacy laws and regulations the program has to cater to. Compliance to these laws has to do with which regions the business is operating in, which industry it belongs to, and also what kind of data it's processing and why. Compliance could mean fulfilling data subject requests. It could mean building a processing activities. It could also mean assessing your third-party risk. Cookie compliance is a critical aspect of compliance in several privacy laws and regulations. You also have to deal with the risk coverage that you have with your assets. Are you assessing your processes through PIAs, privacy impact assessments, or data protection impact assessments? A privacy program also needs to be aware of the retention schedules. Are applications adhering to the retention schedule laid down? Do you have notices presented with the retention schedules disclosed? Are we collecting consent? Are we using the data based on the consent that has been collected? Are we limiting the collection of data? Are we auditing all the processes that involve the personal information that is being used? Do we have an incident response program? These are some critical aspects of a privacy program. These and frameworks that are being adopted can help build a robust privacy program. But the biggest challenge in most organizations, compliance is a legal function. But when it comes to running a privacy program, most legal teams are not staffed, both from a bandwidth standpoint as well as from a technical expertise standpoint. They do know the law, they know exactly what the definition of compliance is for an organization, but they need support from business and technical teams in order to fulfill their obligations towards compliance. Now, business teams and technical teams are very used to running such programs because they have both the bandwidth as well as the technical expertise to carry them off. But compliance is not a revenue generating function, and hence business teams and technology teams are not inclined to comply with such programs. This is where legal teams need assistance. Solvation exists to bridge the gap. We help translate legal requirements to business and technical requirements, and at the same time, we help the legal teams understand business and technical limitations and approaches to be able to fulfill the needs for compliance. The first challenge faced by a privacy program is defining what personal information is. In most cases, legal teams are familiar with the kind of information that is being transacted by the company, and that information is usually presented in the privacy notice that is available on the websites. But you will be amazed at how often when a question is asked with regard to what personal information is being tracked within the organization, most technology and business teams come back with several elements that are not being anticipated and not being disclosed in the privacy notice. This is the starting point for your data mapping function. When you start defining what personal information is and you start logging and making an inventory of all the elements that are being captured, where they're being captured, whose personal information is being captured, how is it being captured, when you start tracking down all the channels of capture, that's the start of a robust data mapping exercise. This data mapping exercise covers your applications, it covers your processes, it also covers your third parties. Several organizations operating in multiple regions internationally also have entities that get covered as part of this. Another aspect of data mapping is now becoming your AI inventory. Many companies and organizations have launched their AI programs, and these programs will also have to be part of your data map. Privacy laws require organizations to provide notice at or before the point of collection of personal information. They also mandate the collection of consent for the specific purposes of processing disclosed in that notice. Now, this consent is collected in the form of cookies. So you have the concept of cookie compliance, where cookies are being classified as strictly necessary cookies, functional cookies, performance cookies, targeted advertising cookies, and social media cookies. There are several other aspects to that. Ad tech companies have different categories that the IAB framework has laid out for them. But that said, it is also a form of compliance with respect to consent collection. Dropping of cookies is becoming a critical aspect of an organization's website. Cookie governance is also becoming a critical aspect. Several litigations have come out with companies not being compliant with cookie requirements, and these requirements are now being audited more carefully. Cookie compliance is hard to manage and govern, especially with the use of third-party cookies. Ad tech platforms, through real-time bidding, are bringing in ads from different companies. This also means that when a script runs on your website, you don't have control over what cookies are going to be dropped. One of the best practices for cookie governance is to drop cookies and tags through your tag manager. Having a consent management platform integrated with your tag manager ensures that you're actually following the cookie consent preferences requested by the visitor of the website. This is easier said than done because the number of cookies that keep getting dropped on the website are changing constantly as the real-time bidding brings in different companies into the fray. This cookie governance is an exercise that needs to be done on a frequent basis, at least monthly, if not quarterly. This will reveal new cookies that need to then be categorized, and it's easier for the CMP or the consent management platform to work with the tag manager and communicate a user's preferences, which then allows the tag manager to be able to withhold the dropping of specific cookies that fall under the categories that the user has not provided consent for. Other challenges that face a privacy program have to do with how data is collected, where it's stored, what is the technology that the data is currently being stored in. How is data flowing from one system to another? Can that data be deleted? Will one delete cascade into other systems? Or do multiple systems have to be part of the program in order for a data subject request for delete to be fully complied with? These challenges are revealed as part of the data mapping exercise. And once you have a clear view of how data flows, then it becomes easier from a technical and an architectural standpoint to decide what compliance to a delete request looks like. Now, the best way to handle some of this is to just follow the data from inbound all the way through to outbound. In the case of a retailer, you would think about a visitor coming to the website, placing an item in the cart, checking out, and having the product delivered to them. Now, this simple process of adding an item to a cart, checking out, and having it delivered to them would involve your order management system. They could also create an account for themselves, which means your customer account profile gets created. You could also sign up for loyalty and rewards. That's another system that gets involved. Eventually, it goes into your order management system. Your order management system will then supply that information to your supply chain. Your supply chain will then relay that information to your vendors if other vendors are involved. And that then gets communicated to your transportation company, and eventually the product is delivered at your doorstep when it comes to online orders. If stores are involved, you have store systems involved. So your point of sale systems, your cash register systems, all these systems become critical aspects of your data map. And following that data allows you to then decide and decipher exactly how a delete request or even an access request is going to be fulfilled.